Hey all, my name is László Leber. Welcome to my channel Coaching. Today I would like to show you that how you can integrate a Keycloak authentication provider with a SpringBoot backend application and a React frontend application. We will secure a backend REST API endpoint with a GVT token. We will use the SpringSecurity to be able to check that the user has the required privileges to be able to open or request data from the endpoint, and also the front-end application will looks like that the user can log in. After that, the front-end application will request the cars list from the backend side. It will send the authorization GVT token to the backend side, and the backend will check that the user has the required privileges. It will send back the data to the client side, and the client will render the cars list on the browser side. So in the browser you will get a cars list back from the backend, and the whole thing will be secured with the Keycloak authentication provider. Okay, let's get started. Here you can find the text form of this tutorial on medium.com. You can read all the steps here. I will use it in this video tutorial as well to make it faster to describe. And first we will start with the setup and running of Keycloak. We will run a Keycloak instance in our computer, and for this one first you need to run somehow a Keycloak. My recommendation is to download the Docker desktop and run the Keycloak in Docker. For this one, we will use the official Keycloak image. You can find it here. And I'm copying this Docker compose that I have already written. You can use it as well, and create a folder somewhere on your computer and just create this Docker compose file. If you have this Docker compose file, then just run docker compose up. First time it will download the Keycloak image and also the Postgres image. We are using the PostgreDB to store the settings of the Keycloak. You need to allow this one. And if everything goes correctly, properly, then we will have a running Keycloak instance and we can start to configure it. Okay, so finally my container was started. You can see the logs, and after that you can open the localhost 14,082 and you can log in with Keycloak. We set up this username and password in the Docker compose file with the environment variables. Okay, the first thing that we should create a new realm. The realm name should be, let's copy from my tutorial. So it should be SpringBoot test. Let's close these things. Okay, so realm name, SpringBoot test. Let's press the create button. And the next thing that we should create the client. We will use a React application creating with Vite, and it will run on a local port. So the next thing is to create the client. And here I have written down that what settings should we use. The name of the client should be React-app, React application, description. This is my client, and go next. Okay, here we don't need to set anything, and the root URL should be this one, the home URL also this one, and the next thing, the redirect URIs, this should be, oops, anything. So we have a wildcard here, and web origin is also, yeah, for testing purpose, let's just writing a star here. And okay, that's correct. Save. And now we should configure the roles. I'm calling this section here as privileges because in real life applications we call these things as privileges because these are the smallest roles, the smallest permission that you can assign to a user. So this is the reason that I'm calling this as a privilege. And let's just create this basic privilege first. And the second one is the view cars privilege. Okay, so we have these two privileges. And after that, we will create realm roles. This is a bigger permission. It could contain multiple client roles or privileges. So when you press role, create role, then let's create a basic role. It could contain multiple privileges, but now it will contain only one. Okay, create the other one first. So can view cars. Okay. And let's go back. So for the basic role, we should assign the basic privilege. So here is the basic privilege. And for the other one, the can view cars, we are assigning the other one that we have created, the view cars privilege. So we have a can view cars role which contains the view cars privilege, but it could contain multiple privileges. So it could contain any number of privileges. And the last thing that we should create here a user that we can use for logging. Coaching. First name. And create. Under the credentials, we should create a password. So let's write with big T test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and exclamation mark. And let's use the same here. Return off the temporary thing and we save the password. And under the role mapping, we assign filter by realm roles, and we assign both of these things for this user. So can view cards and basic role. So this user will get the privileges as well because these roles contains the privileges. Okay, and that's it for the Keycloak setup. And now we can continue with the client setup. So let's continue. I'm opening VS Code and let's generate a new client with this command. So I'm opening a new terminal here and just press this Okay, I have successfully installed the dependencies and I opened the project in a very new VS Code window. So now I can call the npm run dev. Here you can see that my application is running on this URL. If you can see this one, then your application is ready to be ready for coding. So let's check the next step. So we need to install some dependencies. The first dependency is the Keycloak.js. This is the adapter of Keycloak, and we have another package for the easier implementation or easier integration for a React application. So this package helps you integrate Keycloak easier in an easier way. So let's run this. So stop your application and install these dependencies. Now we are waiting for installation. Okay, it's installed. We can call npm run dev again, and we can start to write the main logic of our application. Okay, so now let's start with the main TSX. It's a very important thing here when you are using the Keycloak adapter that you need to turn off the strict mode, because otherwise you will have some problems with double renderings, and Keycloak adapter does not like this double render thing. And after that, let's create a new file in the src folder named keycloak.js. Sorry, ts, because we are writing TypeScript here. And in the keycloak.ts file, we will just writing our Keycloak configuration. So let's go there in the my documentation. Here it is. So you can copy this one, but we will go through it. So we are importing the Keycloak adapter. We are initiating a new Keycloak instance, and we are setting up the Keycloak instance with this configuration. So we have this URL, this real name. This should be matching with your real name that you have written in the Keycloak UI earlier. And this is the client ID that we have set also earlier. So we have this Keycloak TS file, and we can go to the app. We can get rid of this code. We don't need it because we are writing our own logic. Also, you can copy it, but we will go through it. So first, we need to solve this dependency, but we will solve it later. So we are using the React Keycloak provider here. This is from this React Keycloak /web package, and also we are importing this hook. So we are using this provider. We are passing in our Keycloak instance that we have created in our previous file, in the Keycloak TS file, and we are rendering our content here. We created this secured content component. Here we can get the actual Keycloak instance with this hook. This provider provides us this basically, and we can check that if we are logged in or not. If we are not logged in, so it is false. We cannot use exclamation mark here because it could be undefined and also true or false. But in case of false, we need to call the login. So it will redirect the client to the Keycloak's login screen. And if it's false or it's undefined, we are writing not logged in, because if we are logged in, but if we are opening the application in a new tab, it will always redirect us to the Keycloak, and if we are logged in, the Keycloak will redirect us back to the application immediately. So we don't need to log in again, but until that we have an undefined is logged in. And if we are logged in, we are rendering this component, so the cars component and also the title. So this is the logic of the application, and now let's create the cars. So create a new file named cars tsx, and here we are writing this code. Okay, and how is it working? So we have a type car. In the car type we have a name, color and price. The name and color is string and the price is number. And here we also getting our Keycloak instance. We have a state variable, the cars list. It will contain the cars data, and we have the setCars method. When we get our Keycloak instance and we are authenticated, we are checking if the token is expires or not, and it will refresh the token basically, but we are fetching the cars from our backend. We will write our backend application in SpringBoot later, but it will run on this port on localhost, and we will have this endpoint, the /cars. We are sending our bearer token, so we are getting it from Keycloak instance, and we are sending it in a request header authorization. And if we are getting back the data, we are setting it in this state variable. This is very simple test application, so it is all about the Keycloak integration. Also, of course, in a real-life application, we are using a Redux toolkit with an API and services and global states with Redux and other things, but now it is a very simple example application. So we are getting the data and setting it in a local state. And in the render, we are iterating through the cars with this map, and we are render every single car entity. So we are render the name, the color, and the price of the car here. And also we have a logout button. If the user presses this button, then the Keycloak logout function is called. And that's all. That is the client. We can try it out because we can see that our integration with the Keycloak is working or not. So let's call the application. Here you can see that it is working now. So we are redirected to the Keycloak login screen, and we can use our coaching user that we have created. So we had this password, and we can try to sign in. Here we can see that, okay, the cars endpoint is not working yet because we have not implemented the backend application, the backend SpringBoot application yet, but we are logged in and we can press the logout button. So yes, maybe instead of this not logged in, we can write something loading or something like that. So just for testing purpose. So if we log in, you can see this loading and we are logged in. Okay, so everything is working as expected. Now we can write our SpringBoot application as well. Okay, go to this Spring initializer and here set that we are using Maven, the language is Java. You can use the group Keycloak example and artifact Keycloak underscore example, for example. And the packaging is jar, and I'm using Java 23. So I added two dependencies, Spring Web for the API and SpringSecurity for the authentication handling, and press generate. And we have this, you need to extract it here, and let's open it in the in your editor. My editor is IntelliJ. Okay, let's open. We trust this project. Scanning our files, and after it is done, we can start coding. Okay, my dependencies are downloaded, so the application is ready to be written. And now let's create this security config. It is needed because we would like to create a new REST API and we would like to test the REST API without any security first. But we have installed the SpringSecurity dependency by default, and by default it is providing a user and password combination authentication page, but we want to turn it off now. So let's just create this security config. And in this security config, we are turning off everything right now. So we don't have the form login and other things. So we can create the REST API. The other very important thing is to set up the course configuration, because locally the front-end and back-end application are running on different ports. So we need to configure the course to configure it. We need to create this function first. With this one, we will allow the front-end application to call our back-end application on different domain basically, but now on different port, because localhost with different port is the same thing from the browser aspect. And we need to extend our chain. So with this course, put it here. Okay, now everything is ready for the testing of the API. So let's create the API itself. We will run our application on port 1291. So open the application properties and put this configuration. With this, we are setting up our port. And let's create an entity. Yeah, we don't have any GPA or anything like this now. we don't have database, so this is a very simple test application. So we are creating the same entity that we have created on the front-end side. For this one, we are creating this car entity class. Oops. Okay. So we have name, color, and price for the cars. We have the getter and setters and the constructor. Okay. Now let's create the REST controller. You can copy it from here, but we will go through the code. And let's call it my REST controller or car controller or anything. Okay, and here you can see that we have this class. We use this annotation, REST controller annotation, to register it as a REST controller, and we have also the request mapping annotation, and here we set up the path. So under the /cars we will get back the cars, and we are returning 3 cars. We are initiating the car entities here, and to run this I will create a new run configuration, type maven, and I'm writing here SpringBoot run, and let's check it, the Spring initializer anymore. So if I call localhost /cars, then here you can see that we are getting back the cars. Okay. The next thing is that now we can turn on the security. So we are requiring a bearer token in each request from the front end, and we are checking that the user has the required privileges. So for this one, here you can see a GVT token example, but we need to install this dependency first. This is needed for the OAuth 2 logics. So let's open the POM XML file, go to the dependencies section, and put this new dependency here. After that, you need to install this dependency. It is resolving the dependencies now, and that's it. Here you can see it is not ready now, so I can start using it. Okay, the next step, we can update the security config that we have written before. I will describe this logic. So just update the whole thing, and here you can see that we have the OAuth 2 configuration here. We have the GVT authentication converter set up, and we still have the course configuration, and here we have a non-GVT authentication converter where we are extracting the realm access and resource access from the GVT token. If you check this GVT token, here you can see that we have the realm access and the resource access. In the realm access, we can see the privileges that the user has. And under the resource access, we can see also the privileges, but it is grouped by the client ID. So here you can see under the React app that the user has these two privileges. And we are extracting these privileges here with this function. And here we are setting up that basically overall the user need this basic role to be able to open the API or application API, and this is just an example that we are setting here for the cars, but we will set it in the REST controller as well for the other privilege. We have these helper functions where we go through these two sections in the GVT token and extracting the right data that we need. And if we go to the MyREST controller, the last thing that we should do is to put this annotation here in top of the function as well. So we can tell that we need the view cars privilege to be able to use this controller. Okay, the last thing we should do is to configure the Keycloak URL in our application properties file. This is the localhost 14,082 realm SpringBoot test. This is the realm name. And we can rerun the application. Okay, this started. So now with this I'm not able to open it. Here you can see that we have an error, but from the front-end application we should use it. We should be able to use it. And here you can see that it is working. Here you can see that we are sending the token with the authorization request header, and we are getting back the response. We have the 3 cars, and we are rendering the 3 cars here on the page. So everything is working as expected, and I think that's all that I wanted to show you today. But if you check, for example, here the network tab, you can see the Keycloak endpoint calls as well. So, okay, let's try it out. If we are log out, we should arrive to the login page. And if we log in, then we are arriving to the cars list page. And also here you can see that the SpringSecurity is also working. It can process the token that it is getting from the front-end side, and it is sending back the data. Okay, that's all for now today. If you like this video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find many interesting tutorials on this channel, and I will upload many interesting tutorials in the future as well. You can find the text form of this tutorial on Medium as well. You can find the link in my description, in my video description, or you can find it on my webpage, thelebersoftware.hu. And please press the like button as well if you like this video. You can help me a lot. Thank you very much again. Have a nice day. Bye.